Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to be looking at Wintersteel, Book 8 in the Cradle series by Will Wight. I should say this if you made it this far in the series in the book reviews, I will be putting spoilers into this review. This is the eighth book, so I'd hope you have read by this time. But, if you haven't read this book, go read it. It's really good. Okay? Okay. Spoiler time. Okay, so first note, very first thing I wrote was finally in all bold. Uh, this was one of the criticisms I've been having for the last couple books, and Will finally did what I was hoping he would do, which is he slowed down the pace just like a little bit of the book. It was really something great and something I'd been really critical of because we finally get time to let these characters breathe a little bit and not have these constant training, fighting. And the scenes were really, really good. I really liked the scene when Yaren and Lyndon go to the restaurant and they deal with that jerk, and he doesn't recognize them right away, but some of his friends do. I thought that was really funny. A lot of the scenes with Ruby, even with both Lyndon and with Yaren, that were just casual, were really good. There's just a lot of slowed down scenes in this book, and I really liked how Will kind of addressed it in a fourth wall breaky way with Mercy, basically telling Lyndon that there's more to life than training. Go spend time with Yaren. That's not just fighting and working on, winning this tournament. Um, Next thing that's really positive, and I think I might have said this in the last review, but Will does a really good job with tournament arcs, which is kind of good, like surprisingly good, because tournament arcs can be really boring. They're a great way to introduce characters, but they're kind of I usually find them as a bad trope where it just slows down and it does all these kind of pointless fights that we don't really care about. Um, but this is really good, and the fights are pretty interesting. I do think there's some points that he could have, some characters that we, the reader, don't really care about, that he could have probably cut down and cut out a little bit. Um, but most of the fights are really interesting, and we kind of know Yaren's gonna win in the long term, but it's not as obvious. And the getting there, the journey to get there is really interesting. And I think it's really interesting. Partially, it's really interesting because he knocked Lyndon out, who would normally be the character you would assume makes it all the way to be the winner of this tournament. Um, this book is basically Uncrowned 2.0. Realistically, this is just a continuation of the tournament. I honestly think, I mean, it's great, but I honestly think this could have even gone longer if he wanted to. This could have been an extra book or two, just between all the content that was in these two books. I feel like there could have been more. Um, and I really love the cliffhangers between books. They really kept me interested and really wanting to read, and I cannot wait for book 9 to come out. My favorite scene in this book, if not the entire series, is Lyndon's fight at the end with Shakethkuna, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm terrible with names. But the gold dragon chick, it's really awesome when he has his sage revelation and he just puts his hands together, bows, and says gratitude. And then he says his revelation, which is the I am the end. And it's just so good. It's just so satisfying, and I like how it's set up and stuff like that. And I just like how Lyndon it is to oh, we're in the middle of this epic fight, but I want to thank you because you've helped me progress even further. Um, and I really like how Lyndon's icon and now his badge again is tied back to his beginning and his unsold. I really, really, really like that. I think that's really cool. I'm super excited to see Lyndon and Yaren and Ethan all go to Lyndon's home. I'm interested to see more about what's going on in Sacred Valley and why things are the way they are. And I'm really excited to see his sister and Orthos and Jai Long all work together. And I'm interested to see that dynamic, and I'm also interested to see them interact with Lyndon and Yaren and Nathan, I think this is gonna be like a really cool like. It might not happen in the next book, honestly. Like it might be like they have to fight dread gods to get back, and there's like like two concurrent stories going on at the same time. But I'm really interested to see more about his sister and Orthos. Um, Honestly, this book overall is a little hard to critique. I do have a few things, but as with a lot of my critiques, they're not necessarily because I don't like the book, but there's always something that we can improve, and it's more about you know, it's not saying these are bad, but just like these are things maybe we could look at. I kind of already touched on maybe this could have been even longer, to be honest. I don't know if that's really critique of this book. It's mostly just a stylized choice. I'm a huge fan of like these epic fantasy books. I get that's not what this is, but I definitely could, I could have sat on this Uncrowned King tournament section for at least two other books and been satisfied, because there's a lot. If Will were to slow down a little bit and really give us even more of these character moments, which I think he could turn up a little bit more, I think there would be like he could get a lot of story out of these. My biggest criticism, this is like a true criticism, which is that I praised him slowing down, but I think he didn't spend enough time with Lyndon and his interactions with his team. I think there needed to be like there were moments there, but there needed to be more, because when he's seeing his team get, a lot of them are dead at the end. I really could care less. It's not that I'm not like, oh well, that sucks, but that's basically what I said. It's just like, oh, even with Grace, who was like supposed to be this impact, it's supposed to hit us emotionally that Grace is dead. I didn't care. Like, a lot of the stuff is really cool. I like the Cradle series a lot, but like these characters don't hold any weight because we're not given enough time to really get to know them deeply. And I think if Lyndon had really formed a relationship with Grace, like there were definitely moments, but if there had been like, first off, more moments throughout the last couple books setting up to that, slash just a lot of time dedicated to that in this book, when she dies, it would have been far more impactful to us. And it just isn't, because you need more setup. So the whole series as a whole, I definitely recommend. I think this is a good series, a really good fantasy series, and it's got a lot of sci-fi elements into it too. It kind of blurs the two together, and I really, really like that a lot. I like how Will does this series. This has honestly probably become my series that I recommend to people who are new into fantasy. I mean, if you're into fantasy, then you should read this too. But like, I always try to find books when I'm like, I have friends or people I know that come to me and say, hey, Gavin, what fantasy book should I start with? Before, it would have been Mistborn. I think the first Mistborn book was like probably like one of like a really solid book to start a new person just getting into fantasy on. It's not too long. It's not it's a pretty quick, it's not a super quick read like these, but it's still pretty quick. But these are very quick. They're really good, and they're super engaging. Which I think is really, really, really great for like when you want to like introduce someone to like the elements of fantasy. So while I love the series, I'm always gonna look for small things to like that to make it better. Like obviously with the Lyndon and his team things, that doesn't mean I like it any less. It just means that I need to be critical with everything that I read. I'm just always like that. I'm always thinking about like, oh well, what if we could do this, or what if this had happened instead, or what if we had spent more time here? How would that have changed the context of the entire story? I think that's good. I think that everyone should do that. Like even with things that you really, really love, because you can like something even if you're critical of it. it's important to, like, especially if you want to write, it's very important to realize that even writers you like are not perfect. I don't think anyone is perfect. I don't think there's any book that I will ever read that is, this is the best, like, this is undoubtedly no criticism whatsoever. And that's perfectly fine, because these people who are writing them are human. And I know how much work goes in to writing a book. It's a lot. It's not just some quick little project that you can put on and then call it good. Like, to get this kind of content, like Cradle, like Sanderson stuff, like other stuff, it takes time and takes effort. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is the last Cradle review that I can do right now, because this is the last book that's out. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like. If you agree or disagree, or if you had other criticisms of the book, go ahead and comment down below. Just ask that you guys keep it polite so that we can have a good discussion about it. And make sure to subscribe. And thank you for watching.